So is your self-esteem based on what other people think of you, or what other people or the universe reflects back at you? If it is, I bet you're having a flipping bumpy ride. Because when our self-esteem, when the way that we feel about ourselves is just based on what other people think about ourselves and not what you think about yourself or the relationship that you have with yourself, then life becomes flipping chaotic and can be so up and down. So, for instance, you can get up in the morning feeling great, take the kids into school, and another mom, maybe she's got a cold or doesn't feel so great, looks at you and doesn't talk to you like she normally does, and instantly you feel, oh, she doesn't like me. Oh gosh, did I say something wrong when I spoke to her yesterday? And I wonder if I ought to go and see if she's all right, and wonder what I did wrong. And your mind just cascades with living every event loads of times, going over and over and over and over it. And it's exhausting, isn't it? So another scenario might be getting up and feeling okay and going into the office and just going into a meeting and your boss saying, oh, that's great, can you get those figures for us next Thursday by tomorrow? And you're thinking, he doesn't trust me, he's putting a deadline on me, and nobody else has got a deadline. Why have I got a deadline? That must mean that I'm not as good as her. And it goes on and on and on. You know, your partner or someone else looks at another man or a woman and you're thinking, oh, well, that's it. I'm not as thin, slim, I'm not as beautiful, pretty, handsome, all the rest of the crap that comes, can come our way when our self-esteem is based on what other people think instead of what we think about ourselves. It can be just such a rocky road, and it's why so many people just end up sitting opposite me or online to me. So my top tips for self-esteem and making sure that you've got something really, a really grounded relationship within yourself. There's several basic steps, and the first one is to just become aware. Become aware of when you get rocked. When you can be feeling all right and things are fine, and then suddenly you're questioning yourself, you're comparing yourself, you're feeling not good enough, you're over analysing things, you've got that ruminating mind which goes round and round. Well, if he said, she said, and I could have said, and all that stuff going on. Start to recognise when it happens. It can also happen in the very middle of conversations as well. So it can be something like you're talking to somebody and then you suddenly have a thought of something like, oh, am I interesting? They're not really interested in me. And suddenly what you start to have is an internal conversation, an internal dialogue, instead of actually talking to the other person and really listening to what they're saying. You're just in a little world of your own. I get that when you listen to this, they'll be going, oh yeah, I do that. Oh yeah, I do that. Oh, I do that all the time. And if you're doing that, it means that if you're saying yes to a lot of this, it means that your self-esteem is largely based on what other people reflect back at you. And that's never going to be a healthy thing. So the first thing is to notice when it happens, to really become aware, because very often our subconscious blocks act in a way that they're like pesky little shadows, they just pop up. And we just think that's part of our personality. It's not your personality. It's your reality of how you are right now, and that is living with a bit of a shadow, living with a subconscious block. And guess what? People like me I've cleared mine. My clients, thousands of clients have cleared theirs, and you can clear yours. But the first thing you need to do is just be aware that you're having this process, this up and down, this flipping yo-yo thing going on of feeling all right 1 minute and then rubbish the next. So start to get a journal. That's a good idea. And start to notice and record when you get rocked, and start to notice and record what you're saying to yourself when these things happen. So it might be that that mom at the school gate or a colleague or a friend looks at you a bit, and you just without a smile, and you interpret that as them not liking you, or you interpret that as that meaning something which you've imagined, like they don't like you anymore. Well, it may be true, but it also may not be. So let's try and find an easier way to go forward. And the first way is to become aware. So start to become aware when you're triggered. Then start to realise what you're making that to be. And ask yourself, is that true? And if you go, yes, then ask yourself, where is the evidence? Yeah? And when we start to journal these things through, then very often we can start to notice when we're being triggered. And it's such a helpful thing, because what happens, we're no longer running or being run by our subconscious patterns and processes that have probably been there for flipping years. We're starting to really get a dominance over them. We're starting this awareness process, and that's major. Then when we journal about it, it's like, especially when we start to say, is this true? And often it's not. And if we say, yes, it is true, where's the evidence? And you need evidence for it to be true. Then what can happen is we go, okay, this is my imagination, these are my blocks. And there are all sorts of ways of working with those. So if you're interested in just your own growth, your own potential, feeling more empowered in life, come and join Your Empowered Life, my brand new Facebook group, where I will be sharing lots of tips and techniques to help you make the transformations that you are just wanting right now. And the universe is so calling for. Whatever's going on astrologically or within this universe, we are all, that includes you, being called to be our very, very best self. So let's rise to that challenge and come and join the group. The details are all in the words attached to this post, and I'll see you the other side. And on Thursdays in the group, we do a really, really deep dive into a particular topic. So you'll learn and gain masses on those days in particular. So see you there.